have a problem in Ghana. They're very vulnerable. And I'll give you 7 reasons why journalists are very vulnerable in Ghana. And that exposes them to attacks. And unless you fix this vulnerability, it's like a patch. Unless you fix this vulnerability, then everybody is susceptible to intimidation. As you heard our brother Mumin say, he himself, just recently, because of a little report, which is even inconsequential in terms of finance, small report, and people want to kill him. What are the risks and the vulnerabilities of journalists? In the first place, a lot of journalists are poor. And the consequence of this poverty ensures they cannot afford private transportation. And if you don't have private transportation, then you are necessarily exposed every time you travel. That's one risk factor. Second, the job of the journalist is to move around to gather information. That movement exposes journalists. Because when you move, not only do you move in public, you may move and meet the enemy that you don't know is your enemy. Number 3, a lot of journalists work for media houses that are not impartial. They're either political or they have committed positions in society. And they force the journalists to toe that line. Is a fact. While many media houses will tell you press freedoms, they don't give press freedoms to the journalists that work there and force them to be partisan. Now, if you do partisan journalism, then you expect partisan opposition. Number 4, because of the poverty of many journalists, they often act, investigate, report in desperation. That means they don't take their time, they don't have the opportunity to give both sides a fair reporting. And that often creates a situation where people think the journalist is after them. It may not be so. It could be that the journalist is so desperate that he or she is forced to do and to write certain investigative reports that are not fair and biased, and unbiased. Number 5, and this is very, very important. I've noticed that the more competent you become as a journalist, with a larger following, people read or watch your shows or reports, the more vulnerable you become. A lot of journalists who are fooling around, incompetent, doing inconsequential investigation reports are not at risk. It's only when you become useful for the public interest, very good at what you do, and therefore creating consequential reports and shows, that is the time that you become the enemy of those who are the target of your investigation reporting. Paradoxically, that means that Ahmed Swale was good. It means that his report, whatever he was doing, was consequential. All of you strive to become competent, excellent. And what I'm telling you is, in this country, the better you become, the more vulnerable you become. If you see journalists who are not at risk, it's because you're not doing anything of consequence, of significance.